I bet you didn't know these unsettling facts that'll give you nightmares. The golden poison dart frog is only the size of a paperclip. It's tiny and absolutely adorable, but one single touch can kill you. Actually, a single one of these little guys has enough poison to kill 10 to 15 grown adults. A group of hogs can eat a human being pretty quickly, and the only evidence that'll be left would be when they pooped out the teeth. Everything else is completely digested. The Japanese hornet is one of the largest hornets in the world, and it also has some pretty intense venom, like so bad it'll cause you to go into kidney failure. Rats' teeth are so strong that they can chew through metal and even cinder blocks. When a male lion takes over a new pride, he kills off all the cubs, so the only cubs in the pride will be the ones he fathered. There is such thing as fatal insomnia. It's a rare genetic degenerative brain disorder. It starts out mildly and then worsens. Eventually, the person who suffers from it isn't able to sleep at all. And eventually, this leads to death. Okay, so theoretically, it would take 400 human beings to make an iron sword. The average human being has 3.5 to 4 grams of iron. And an iron sword weighs about 1,500 grams. So doing the math, that's about 400 human beings. Around 4,400 unidentified bodies are recovered every single year. And usually, every year, an average of 1,000 of them still remain unidentified. The last execution by guillotine was done in the same year that the first Star Wars movie premiered. To date, the U.S. has lost 6 broken arrows. Now, what is a broken arrow? It's a term used for nuclear weapon accidents, where one has accidentally been launched, fired, detonated, stolen, or lost. So there are 6 unrecovered nuclear weapons out there right now, and that's just from the US alone. Your neurons are cannibals. Let me explain. So your brain only takes up 2% of your body's weight, but consumes 25% of your body's energy. The tens of billions of neurons in your brain require constant energy. When your stomach starts growling, it's because your brain is hungry. And your neurons in your brain are eating each other. And your body panics and is like, hey, we need some more energy here. Hence why you feel hungry. So yeah, cannibalism is what's urging you to eat. Your brain hates unfinished thoughts. That's why you get songs and phrases stuck in your head that repeat over and over and over again. This phenomenon is known as earworm. Because your brain is trying to remember how the second part goes, the first part repeats over and over. It's desperately trying to finish the song or statement. We all know not enough sleep is bad for your brain, but too much sleep is also not good. Scientists have discovered that your brain ages faster when you oversleep, as there's way more brain activity when you're asleep versus when you're awake. 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night is considered a healthy sleeping schedule. How you see things is not how they actually are. The way the light falls on our retina is in a 2-dimensional fashion, but we live in a 3-dimensional world. Our brain pretty much has to take its best guess and convert what we're seeing into the 3-dimensional form. So what you're seeing might not be reality. There are no pain receptors in the brain. This is how doctors are able to perform brain surgery while the patient is still awake. Your brain also can control whether or not you actually feel pain or not, even if you are supposed to be in crippling pain. Extreme emotions and anxiety can override these pain receptors, and your brain will literally numb your pain. The deepest part of the ocean is 36,200 feet deep, or 11,030 meters. The ocean is full of black holes. Yeah, like in space. They can be as big as cities, and nothing can escape them. The deeper you go in the sea, the more pressure that is applied. You can literally be crushed to death by the ocean. For every 33 feet, or 10.06 meters, you go down, the pressure changes by 1 atmosphere. Imagine getting crushed to death by water. There are around 3 million shipwrecks laying at the bottom of the ocean. Just 1 milliliter of ocean water contains around 10 million viruses. The amount of viruses in the ocean outnumber the amount of stars in the Milky Way. When threatened, Fulmar chicks vomit a sticky, stinky orange oil on their predators. 2 million tons of human waste is discharged into our water systems every single day. The pacufish has teeth like a human, and they look super creepy. A single person creates enough spit in their lifetime to fill up 2 full-size swimming pools. Your phone, that you're probably holding in your hand right now, has more germs and bacteria on it than a public restroom. There was once a chicken named Mike that lived for 18 months after his head had been chopped off. Blood can be used as a substitute for eggs when baking because of their similar protein composition. There was a tiger in Nepal that was responsible for 436 deaths. In ancient Europe, they used to use skulls, as in human skulls, for bowls and cups. Sudden arrhythmic death syndrome, also known as SADS, is when someone just suddenly dies for no real reason or cause. You literally just drop dead. Truman Syndrome, where the person who suffers from it honestly believes they are the star of their own reality TV show. In Paris, in 1912, they had a raffle where they raffled off actual babies to raise money. Wasps remember human faces. Imagine having a vendetta with a wasp. 60% of people cannot have a 10-minute conversation without telling at least one lie. There is a species of octopus that eats its own tentacles when it gets bored. I think that's a bit dramatic. In Longyearbyen in Norway, it is illegal to die. There are 2,368 different species of bacteria living in your belly button right now. You can crush a human's trachea with less force than it takes to crush a Coke can. Oh geez. Romans used to import urine from Portugal and use it as mouthwash. In ancient Egypt, they would take crushed pig eyes and pour it into someone's ears. This was a method used to try and cure blindness. We are more bacteria than we are human. The amount of bacteria living on a healthy human's body outnumbers human cells 10 to 1. That's a lot of bacteria, y'all. Male giraffes will repeatedly headbutt female giraffes in the bladder until they urinate. Then he will taste her urine to see if she is ovulating. And if she is, they're gonna mate. A hotel in New Orleans offered as a prize a stay in their presidential suite with complimentary private dinners and spa treatments, totaling up to $15,000 to the one person who could return the craziest thing that could be stolen from their hotel. So people would just start stealing all kinds of crazy stuff and bringing it back. Woolly mammoths were still walking the earth when the first pyramid was built. Jackie Coogan, the man who played the original Uncle Fester in the Addams Family, is believed to have broken into a prison with a mob and lynched a man who ransomed, kidnapped, and murdered one of Coogan's childhood friends. This photo right here shows a successful cranioplasty that was performed in ancient Peru. The patient lived and healed very well. The cranioplasty was done with a gold inlay. At one point in time, they used gasoline to treat lice. Think about how bad that would burn. They used to prescribe radioactive radium water to treat illnesses. Literally anything. They would just have you drink a glass of pretty much pure radiation. Obviously, this killed a lot of people. They used to give morphine syrup to infants to treat teething pain. I mean, I guess they couldn't feel the pain if they were totally knocked out. Back in the day, if you caught syphilis, they would literally use mercury to try and cure them. Clearly, this didn't work. Syphilis treatments has been pretty wild over the years. At one point, they tried to use arsenic and even injecting patients with malaria to try and treat it. The human brain can remain conscious up to 20 seconds after decapitation. A body decomposes 4 times faster in water than it does on land. Within 3 days of death, the enzymes in your digestive tract start to eat you. And about 4 days after dying, your body will swell up like a balloon from the gases those enzymes release as they're devouring your body. Forensic scientists can tell how long you've been dead just by what bugs are eating away at your corpse. Pretty cool once you think about it. Crocodiles don't walk. They gallop like horses. And they can run up to 11 miles per hour. Your tonsils can grow back after being removed. If all the tissue isn't removed during surgery, they can grow back. And you'd have to get surgery all over again. Abraham Lincoln was a wrestler, like a professional wrestler. He rarely ever lost. He is in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. There are some species of jellyfish that are immortal. Bedbugs have been around since the dinosaurs, like 115 million years ago. Not only are snails totally adorable, they have thousands of tiny teeth. That's how they rip their food apart into bite-sized pieces. At one point, people in Europe rubbed white lead on their faces. It was usually also mixed with vinegar. Lead definitely isn't good for you, and it's poisonous. They would do this because they wanted a paler complexion. They also claimed it cleared up blemishes. Instead, a lot of people ended up dying of lead poisoning. In an attempt to cure baldness, at one point in time, men would mix cumin, pigeon poop, horseradish, and nettles together. They would then take this concoction and rub it on their bald spot. It didn't work. Who even thought of that? Up until the late 1800s, people in Japan thought black teeth were beautiful. They said it indicated wealth and sexual maturity. To achieve this, they drank spiced dye. They said that this was done on women to help hide their mouth expressions, made them more graceful and feminine. In the 19th century, women would literally mutilate their bodies with corsets made out of metal. It caused some pretty intense digestive issues and even broke their ribs. It definitely had a negative impact just to have a tiny waist. Victorian women wanted their eyes dilated. They literally wanted to appear weak and fragile and have big, watery, emotional eyes. Some said dilated pupils meant you were in love. So they would use eye drops made out of deadly nightshade, and it would literally cause them to go blind. But anything for the sake of beauty, right? Your lips are made of the same skin type and texture as your butthole. Airplanes turn off the lights before landing and before taking off, so your eyes will be adjusted to the darkness to make it easier to escape if the plane crashes. So they're literally anticipating the plane to crash. Speaking of planes, in the event of a crash landing in a body of water, flight attendants are specifically trained to allow no dead bodies on the life rafts. So if you don't make it, you're getting left behind. Deer will lay on decaying corpses. It's because they emit heat, and they think that's cozy, like their own personal little heating pad. Whales don't die of old age. Eventually, they become so weak that they can't swim to the surface anymore. So they suffocate and sink down to the bottom of the ocean. That one made me sad. The FDA allows 1 rodent hair per every 100 grams of peanut butter. Jelly beans get their shine from bug excrement. Yeah, bug poop. It's a resin made from the secretions of the lac beetle. If you flush while you're sitting on a vacuum toilet, like the ones found in airplanes and cruise ships, there's a possibility it'll rip your rectum out. Yeah, like your straight up butthole. There was once a form of birth control where they would take beaver testicles, soak them in a high alcohol content liquor, and then drink it. And apparently that was their birth control. This one is the worst for me. I can't even look at it. This is what a child's skull looks like before they lose their baby teeth. Facts that I bet you didn't know. Male giraffes will repeatedly headbutt female giraffes in the bladder until they urinate. Then he will taste her urine to see if she is ovulating. And if she is, they're gonna mate. A hotel in New Orleans offered as a prize a stay in their presidential suite with complimentary private dinners and spa treatments, totaling up to $15,000 to the one person who could return the craziest thing that could be stolen from their hotel. So people would just start stealing all kinds of crazy stuff and bringing it back. Woolly mammoths were still walking the earth when the first pyramid was built. Jackie Coogan, the man who played the original Uncle Fester in the Addams Family, is believed to have broken into a prison with a mob and lynched a man who ransomed, kidnapped, and murdered one of Coogan's childhood friends. The FDA allows 1 rodent hair per every 100 grams of peanut butter. Jelly beans get their shine from bug excrement. Yeah, bug poop. It's a resin made from the secretions of the lac beetle. If you flush while you're sitting on a vacuum toilet, like the ones found in airplanes and cruise ships, there's a possibility it'll rip your rectum out. Yeah, like your straight up butthole. There was once a form of birth control where they would take beaver testicles, soak them in a high alcohol content liquor, and then drink it. And apparently that was their birth control. This one is the worst for me. I can't even look at it. This is what a child's skull looks like before they lose their baby teeth. It takes you longer to drown in salt water than it does fresh water. Fresh water is pretty quick. Because of the heavy salt content in the water, it can take you up to 10 minutes to drown. If you're murdered in the United States, there is a 1 in 3 chance that they will never find who killed you, and your murder will remain a mystery. There are about 20 supervolcanoes worldwide. If just one of them erupted, it would take billions of lives. And Earth is 24,000 years overdue for a volcanic eruption. The air you breathe at a train station or an airport, a place with a really high volume traffic of people, 15% of the air you breathe is straight up human skin flakes. You know, since we're always shedding our skin. 75% of people are walking around right now with inflamed gums, which means 75% of people have some sort of gum disease. Bleeding when brushing, stinky breath, and swollen or red gums. More people say they have this than not, and it's actually totally not normal and should not be happening. In 18th century, when a rich person had their tooth pulled, they had their tooth replaced with a tooth from a poor person. It reached its peak in 1815, when they started taking the teeth of dead soldiers who had passed in the Battle of Waterloo. There was a belief in South Africa that if someone who was infected with HIV or AIDS had sexual relations with a virgin, it would cure them. So this caused many assaults, mostly done on young children. Up until 1986, doctors didn't believe that babies could feel pain. They would go as far as to perform open heart surgery on infants with absolutely no anesthesia. In the 1950s, the United States said they were testing smoke screens in St. Louis as protection from possible Soviet aerial attacks. But they weren't. They were actually spraying citizens with radiation particles to secretly study how it affected them. Koalas can give you chlamydia by peeing on you. There is actually a huge epidemic of koalas having chlamydia in Australia. And you can get it when you're cuddling up to one of the cute things and it accidentally pees on you.